Everybody needs to raise their hand. I just saw you guys in Mrs. Gibbs' class 2 days ago, and I was so impressed at how well you guys did with your paintings and your drawings. And I want to share with you guys, because you guys don't know me that well, and I want you guys to see what's important, what I've done that helps me to learn. And I want to share with you guys this painting that I did a couple of years ago.
Wow.
And you're probably like, what does this have to do with anything? But when I was in elementary school, in first and second grade, it was so hard for me to read. I really struggled with it, and this painting just kind of represents how I was able to really learn what type of learner I was in elementary school, and I'm a visual learner. Does anybody know what that means? Amir?
You have to see it to get to
You have to see it to get to it, right. Trey, what were you going to say? You going to say that too? Okay, so like when I'm looking, especially when I'm reading chapter books like you guys, like you're starting to not so much read picture books, but kind of read text that doesn't have a lot of illustrations. And so it's hard to imagine kind of what's going on in the text if you don't use your brain, which everybody has a brain, so everybody's able to do it. And so we're going to talk about today how reading is like art, and that you can imagine things in your head, and you can get pictures, and based on you looking at like what the author says in the text, to be able to get mental images in your head. Do you guys know what kind of that means, to get mental images in your head? Have you guys ever heard of that before? Imagine, exactly. So you can pretend like you're almost there, right? Right, Marcel? Yes. Okay. Well, today I'm going to read from a book called Holes. Has anybody ever heard this? Yeah? Treyon, have you? Yes. Have you read it? You have? Okay. Well, I don't want you to spoil the ending. It's a really good book, but I'm just going to read a part of it to you guys. And I want, as I read, I'm going to read through it twice. But the first time, I just want you guys, if you want to, you can close your eyes, but you don't have to. But I want you guys to pretend like you're here, okay? Like you're the main character in this, and I want you to just imagine that you're like sitting and really pay attention to what the author says. He's going to be describing a kind of place, okay? And then we're going to talk about this in a little bit. So just listen and get those mental images in your head, okay? Okay, chapter 1. There is no lake at Camp Green Lake. There once was a very large lake here, the largest lake in Texas. That was over 100 years ago. Now it is just a dry, flat wasteland. There used to be a town of Green Lake as well. The town shriveled up and dried along with the lake, and all the people who lived there. During the summer, the daytime temperature hovers around 95 degrees in the shade. If you can find any shade, there's not much shade in a big dry lake. The only trees are 2 old oaks on the eastern edge of the lake. A hammock is stretched between the 2 trees, and a log cabin stands behind that. The campers are forbidden to lie in the hammock. It belongs to the warden. The warden owns the shade. Out on the lake, rattlesnakes and scorpions find shade under rocks and in the holes dug by the campers. Here's a good rule to remember about rattlesnakes and scorpions. If you don't bother them, they won't bother you. Usually. Being bitten by a scorpion or even a rattlesnake is not the worst thing that can happen to you. You won't die. Usually. Sometimes a camper will try to be bitten by a scorpion or even a rattlesnake. Then he will get to spend a day or 2 recovering in his tent instead of having to dig a hole out on the lake. But you don't want to be bitten by a yellow-spotted lizard. That's the worst thing that can happen to you. You will die a slow and painful death. Always. If you get bitten by a yellow-spotted lizard, you might as well go into the shade of the oak tree and die in the hammock. There's nothing anyone can do for you anymore. Okay. So I saw a lot of you guys closing your eyes. Did you guys get that place kind of what the author was talking about? Yeah? Okay, who can tell me kind of what's going on in your head right now? Come here.
You're in the desert. Is it long?
You're in the desert?
Cute.
You're right. You might if you get bitten by what?
Yellow spotted.
A yellow spotted lizard. Very close. Okay. So it's called what? What is the name of the camp? Xavier? Green Lake. Okay, but it's called Camp Green Lake, but is it actually a lake?
No.
No.
It's a desert.
It's a desert. Isn't that kind of, we wouldn't have known that unless we were reading in the details. Okay, so now I need a volunteer. Mona Lisa, would you mind passing out one of these to every person? And then Tamaya, would you give a highlighter to everybody? You guys can, what this is exactly what I just read, and then Jemiah's going to give you guys a highlighter. And this is really important when you guys are reading. I want to encourage you guys can keep the highlighters, okay? This helps you to know what's going on in the text, okay? And it's one thing just to read it, but for me, a lot of the time, I read something and then I have no idea what it just said. Does that happen to anybody?
Yes.
Yes?
That's happened to me.
I haven't seen it all the time, okay? So especially you guys are getting ready to take the big ARP test that you guys are preparing for. I don't think you can highlight on that, but you can definitely underline. So when everybody gets that, I just want, as I'm reading, I'm going to read the same thing that I just read. And so as I'm reading, I want you guys to read along with me. Thank you guys so much. Here we go. Is everybody ready? Thumbs up if you're ready. Awesome. Okay, here we go. Chapter 1. There is no lake at Camp Green Lake. There once was a very large lake here, the largest lake in Texas. That was over 100 years ago. Now it is just a dry, flat wasteland. There used to be a town of Green Lake as well. The town shriveled up and dried along with the people and dried along with the lake and the people who lived there. During the summer, the daytime temperatures hovers around 95 degrees in the shade, if you can find any shade. There's not much shade in a big dry lake. The only trees are 2 old oaks on the eastern edge of the lake. A hammock is stretched between the 2 trees, and a log cabin stands behind that. The campers are forbidden to lie in the hammock. It belongs to the warden. The warden owns the shade. Out on the lake, rattlesnakes and scorpions find shade under rocks and in holes dug by the campers. Here's a good rule to remember about the rattlesnakes and scorpions. If you don't bother them, they won't bother you. Usually. Being bitten by a scorpion or even a rattlesnake is not the worst thing that can happen to you. You won't die. Usually. Sometimes a camper will try to be bitten by a scorpion or even a rattlesnake. Then he will get to spend a day or 2 recovering in his tent instead of having to dig a hole out on the lake. But you don't want to be bitten by a yellow spotted lizard. That's the worst thing that can happen to you. You will die a slow and painful death. Always. If you get bitten by a yellow spotted lizard, then you might as well go into the shade of the oak trees and lie in the hammock. There is nothing anyone can do for you anymore. Okay, awesome. Okay, you guys can use the highlighters. I don't know if anybody really highlighted stuff, but we're going to go and talk about kind of what you guys are thinking right now about Camp Green Lake. And what is this process that we're doing right now?
Getting good information.
Huh? We are reading, but we're creating mental images in our head. Imagining. It's also called visualization. Okay? Visualize. Yes, I know you guys have talked about that.
Can you come back to me?
You wanna come over?
Thank you, baby girl.
Yeah.
Go to everybody. Don't forget Mrs. Cook, okay? Makes your little cute self.
Okay. Okay, who can raise their hand and tell me something about, what's the name of the place again? Camp Green Lake. Okay. Somebody want to look in the text and tell me something about it, a detail, something describing the setting. You will not die. Yes. Okay. So maybe.
If you get bit by a rattlesnake.
So you have to watch out for rattlesnakes and scorpions, right? That's something about the camp.
Or don't mess with it.
Don't mess with them. Yeah. Watch out for rattlesnakes. And scorpions. Don't mess with them. Okay. Destiny?
If you spot a yellow spotted lizard, you will die in a slow heading for death.
Okay, so what? Beware of yellow spotted lizards, because you will die. Pretty scary, huh? How old is the camp?
100.
100? 100 years old?
Yes.
And where does it say that?
On the first passage.
On the first passage, yeah. Okay. Who do you want to watch out for? Ariana. The rattlesnake, yeah. There's somebody. This is somebody else. It's not an animal.
It's warden.
The warden. Okay, Treyon's read this before, right? So do you know who that is? Do you remember? No?
The warden.
Okay, well, she owns the camp, okay? So who goes to the camp?
Kids.
Kids? Kids, okay, and what do they have to do?
They have to dig holes.
Big hole.
Oh, so that's that show. They made a show about that.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, it's a movie too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
This story is about a lady.
Let's listen. What?
This story was about a lady. She was killing people.